Episode 5 is another episode that deviated from the game. Not as much as episode 3, but enough to be considered its own thing. And again, the core message, which was to show what people are willing to do for the people they love, stayed the same. This is easily one of the best episodes so far, and my personal favorite so far as well. It had everything. It was pulling at your heartstrings from the very beginning. There was a horde of infected. We got to see a bloater for the first time, and we see how love can make people do destructive things. We start the episode with Henry and Sam a few days before episode 4. We find out how they were able to survive on their own with the city looking for them and why they chose to take their chances with Ellie and Joel. It turns out that the doctor that Kathleen killed was, in fact, lying to her. He was protecting the brothers, and he did know where they were. They were running out of food, and so the doctor went on a food run because Kathleen and her people were looking for Henry and Sam, not him. It's safer for him to be out and about. After a while, Henry realizes that the doctor wasn't coming back. And then he sees Joel fighting off the people that tried to ambush him and Ellie. In Joel, Henry sees their ticket out. He already had the way out, but he needed an experienced fighter to lead them safely through the tunnels. Because as we later find out, the closest Henry has come to violence was pointing an unloaded gun at them. Joel is at first hesitant, but Ellie knows he's eventually going to give in. She even jokes about how under the tough guy act, he's really a softie. Joel reluctantly agrees after he hears Henry's plan on how they can use the abandoned tunnels to get out of the city. Henry is the brains and Joel is the muscles, and together they have a better chance at escaping than they do alone. Once underground, Henry and Joel have a very deep conversation, and Henry tells Joel about an awful thing he did to save his brother. That's when we find out that Henry gave Fedra, Kathleen's brother, in exchange for medication for Sam. Fedra ended up beating him to death, and that led to the uprising that eventually got them overthrown, hunted down, and killed. Directly, Henry may have been responsible for one death, although I'm not sure that Fedra planned on killing Kathleen's brother, but indirectly, he is responsible for many deaths. That is mirrored by Kathleen later on to an even greater scale. Henry is obviously haunted by his decision both mentally and physically, but he's able to tell Joel about it because in Joel he sees someone like him. Someone that he knows cares for somebody, someone that can understand why he did the things he did. Henry tells Joel that he may not be Ellie's father, but he was someone's because he can sense that by his demeanor. Joel may be quiet, but he is very protective of Ellie, and as Sam's guardian, Henry can see that. Sam and Ellie's relationship was really refreshing to see as well, because they're kids, just being kids. They were goofing around at every opportunity, reading comic books, laughing, and just, doing kid stuff, even in a world as messed up as theirs, especially considering their situation. There's danger in every corner, but because they trust their guardians, they don't panic. And some of that definitely comes from not understanding their situation fully, but that's because, well, they're children. Both Henry and Joel did a pretty good job at sheltering them from their environment, up until this point at least. After they were out of the tunnels, they came under fire from a sniper. The sniper had like stormtrooper level aim, which allowed Joel to go around and sneak up on him. It turns out the sniper was an old man named Anthony who radioed Kathleen, letting her know that they were there. She tells him to hold them there and that she was on the way. When Joel got the drop on the sniper, he tells him to hand over the gun and please don't try anything. But of course, the old man didn't listen and Joel had to do what he had to do. This is an important scene because the easiest and probably the safest thing would have been to just kill him. That way he couldn't tell Kathleen which way they went. And maybe in the past that's exactly what he would have done, but that's not who he is now. Joel only finds out after killing Anthony that he was a lookout for Kathleen, but why leave a witness, especially someone that wanted to kill them, even though they had children with them? Within seconds of Anthony's death, Kathleen and her small army show up on military vehicles. They start shooting at Henry, Sam, and Ellie, who were still on the street. Joel, now at the sniper spot, tries to provide cover fire for them, but he can't keep peeking with so many guns on him. They'd eventually get him. Kathleen finally corners Henry, Sam, and Ellie, while Joel can only look on. Henry asks her to spare the kids, but she says she can't do that. The children were with them, so they had to go too. Henry tries to explain why he did what he did, but Kathleen tells him she knew why he did it. She asks if he considered whether Sam was meant to die. Kids die all the time, after all. The world didn't revolve around Sam. And just when it seemed Henry and the kids were done for, a bunch of infected rush out from underground and attack them. Amongst them was a bloater. An infected takes decades to turn into a bloater. The whole action scene with the infected was shot incredibly well. I was tense all over. They managed to capture the chaos, the hopelessness, and the sheer will to survive so well. The bloater was immune to everything that Kathleen's people threw at it. Perry, Kathleen's second in command, literally gets ripped apart trying to buy enough time for Kathleen to get to safety. And by the way, the actor that plays Perry, Jeffrey Pierce, was the voice of Tommy in the games. Kathleen runs away from the infected and towards Joel and them and comes face to face with Henry. Just before she pulls the trigger, a child stalker gets her. That child stalker was so creepy, especially the way it twisted and turned while in the car trying to get Ellie. I might not have kids after that, but it was amazing to watch. It was without a doubt the best action scene so far. Henry and Kathleen are more alike than different. They both risked the lives of others for their personal reasons. Henry wanted to get Sam medication for his leukemia, so he turned in Kathleen's brother, Michael. Kathleen's need for revenge made her blind to the much greater threat, which was the sinkhole from episode 4. She knew it was fungus related, but she chose to focus on hunting down Henry and Sam. Henry's actions led to an uprising that overthrew and caused the deaths of Fedra soldiers, collaborators, and probably some of the rebels as well. Kathleen's actions left her people defenseless. With both her and Perry's death, they are also now leaderless. The infected are heading towards the civilians in the city. They will be caught unaware with less equipment and personnel to fight the infected, and they'll have a bloater to deal with. It's not looking good for them. Both Henry and Kathleen made decisions that saved people. Kathleen with her leadership in the uprising that freed her people, and Henry with his decision to turn Michael in, but they both also got a lot of people killed. Who the hero is and who the villain is depends on your perspective, because we find out from Perry that although Michael was loved by everyone, he wasn't making things better for them. Kathleen did. Without Henry turning in Michael, Sam would be dead. This grayness is exactly what The Last of Us is about. On the next scene, everyone is in a house, safe and resting. Joel and Henry agree to go to Wyoming together. Ellie and Sam are joking around, reading comic books and bonding again. It's a feel-good moment. They narrowly escaped death, and now everything seems to be the way it should be. The adults decide to stick together, and the kids are being kids again. Henry then walks in and puts them to bed, but Ellie, being Ellie, doesn't do as she's told. Sam asks her if she's ever scared, and she tells him she's always scared. She tells him she's scared of ending up alone. Sam then asks if you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? And then shows Ellie where he was bit. Ellie shows him her bite scar and tells him her blood is medicine. She then rubs her blood over Sam's wound, thinking it would cure him, and promises to stay up with him and gives him a hug. The next morning, Sam is of course infected and attacks Ellie. Henry is forced to kill Sam, and then he takes his own life because he couldn't deal with what he did to Sam. For Henry, the world did revolve around Sam. What started off as a wonderful thing turned unbelievably dark in a matter of hours. It's absolutely gut-wrenching. The other 4 episodes were all about Joel's motivations for continuing on with the mission, but this episode was all about Ellie's motivations. She just lost a friend, and she is the key to not letting that happen again. Not in those circumstances, anyway. She could save everyone from the infection. That's why she has to get to the Fireflies, to save the world from the infected. The changes from the game overall were yet again great. Henry and Sam were better in the show than the game. Sam being deaf was a good decision because it contrasted Ellie perfectly. While she was immune to the infection, making her basically a superhero, Sam didn't have the ability to use sound, a necessity to survive, and therefore it made him even more vulnerable, and the weak die, especially in a world like theirs. This was the best episode so far.